So I make a mistake all the time when I'm trying to start habits, and I also see other people doing this when I'm working with them in my practice as well. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to start health habits and a more efficient way to do it. There are a lot of ways that you can go about changing your health, right? And I think it doesn't matter what type of health change we're talking about. If we're talking about exercise, or if we're talking about sleep, or if we're talking about your diet, or if we're talking whatever topic in health we're talking about, there are a lot of different options that you have. You can change your diet or your sleep, or whatever. When we're talking about stress relief, there's tons of areas that can be manipulated to help you move to that next level. And when I make a change, I have the bad habit of just deciding I'm going to do this, and then I do it. It doesn't always work out long term though, because when I make that change, I make big changes. So I change, let's talk about diet. I cut out the amount of desserts or whatever else that is in there. I try and completely eliminate those. I will cut back on any other starchy things. I will add more fruits and vegetables. I'm doing all of these different moving parts, and that works well because it's a positive change. It's changes that I know that I need to make, but it doesn't work well because it's too much at one time. And our lives have become so convoluted. There are so many things going on. There are so many things stealing our attention at all times. And our attention is probably our most valuable resource, right? Everybody says, time is your most valuable resource, or money is your most valuable resource. But actually, it's your attention, because your attention is something that's there even when you're doing something else. If you're spending time on something else, your attention might not always be there. Your attention may be on something else. So when you've got all these things that take up your attention, you only have limited supply of attention. It doesn't last long, right? Sooner or later, something is going to come along that is going to require your attention. You're going to have to focus on that. If you don't have the habits in place, the system in place underneath it, it falls apart. And that's where I find myself struggling. That's where I see a lot of my patients struggling. Another example of this would be beginning of the year. A lot of people go and sign up for a gym membership. They go up, they'll run 5 miles that first day, even though they haven't run in years. They'll do some weightlifting, and then they'll go home and relax. Next day they get up and they can't move because they're so sore because they try to do too much at one time. We've got to figure out ways that are going to ease us into this. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is what can we do to set our habits to develop that system to where we can actually just start to get that momentum rolling. And the thing that I want you to look at is, as always, why do you want to make the change? What in your life is driving you to make that change? If we know why you're going to make that change, that's going to help you get through the tough times. Like I said, there's always going to be times that test our patience, that test our resolve on these things. And if we don't have that underlying why, it's pretty easy to say, you know what, I'm tired, I just need this, and you make the bad decision. You don't have the willpower to keep it going. And if we can come up with a system, if we can come up with a why, it's much, much easier to overcome that. Does that eliminate the issue? Absolutely not. It's something you still have to put focus on. It's something you still have to get excited about. You still have to have that underlying want to. But there are going to be times when you make mistakes. Question is, once you make a mistake, how do you react? The next thing that we have to look at is, what change are you going to make? And on this, I just want you to pick one thing to start with. So on the diet example, cutting out desserts would be one thing that you could do. Adding more fruits and vegetables would be one thing that you could do. Going to the gym and starting to lift weights and doing, maybe 2 or 3 lifts, one thing that you could do. Going and doing cardio would be one thing that you could do. If you find that one thing, you have a starting place. You have a place to build from. We can ease our way into this. And that's important, because if we go up and we find out, man, this takes too much time, this takes too much effort, this leaves me too sore, this isn't working, all of those things are going to frustrate you. And when you get frustrated, you're more likely to quit. So if we're going to develop a habit, we've got to start slow. There are people that can go up and do this, where they just throw everything to the wind. They say, I'm going to do every single thing. I'm going to go cold turkey on whatever I'm doing. I'm going to do something completely different. It can work for some people, but it's hard to work in the long term because when that difficult challenge comes and you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the effort, it's easy to say I quit. So that's just choose one thing. Once you have that one thing down, once it's become habit, add another thing. So instead of just avoiding desserts, then you could add more fruits or vegetables. Or you could, instead of just avoiding desserts, you can add more water, whatever that may be. Once you've started weightlifting, then you can start doing cardio, or vice versa. Once you've started to go to bed at a certain time, then you can start doing other things to affect your sleep. So just one thing at a time. Once we start to get the momentum, once we start to get that habit down, that's when we add another thing. Once we start to get that habit down, then we add another thing. And that's how you really start to make the snowball on this. But you see the people that are successful in exercise, right? Why is exercise, the people that are successful, why are they successful? And in most cases, the reason behind that is they start to exercise. And as they start to exercise, they realize that exercise alone is not enough, and they start to make other small changes. So they start to change the way that they eat a little bit. Once they start to change the way that they eat a little bit, it gives them the energy to go up and do a little bit more of a workout. Once they do a little bit more of a workout, they say, hey, you know what? I need extra sleep. They start making the change in the sleep, and they start snowballing these things. When you look at finances or any other area, I mean, success is success, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about business or we're talking about career or we're talking about finances, we're talking about relationships. Success is success. And that's what we have to study is what can we do to start making that change. But if you look at the finance guys, they all talk about some sort of a waterfall or snowball or whatever it may be talking about. They take the debts that you have and they start paying down on one debt. They pay extra on that to get it to go away. Some people argue that the right way to go is to pay the high interest. It's going to save you money over long term. Some people argue that the way to go is to pay on the low interest because it's going to give you that momentum. You're going to start to see that change a little bit faster. Doesn't save you money, but you start making that forward progress and it keeps you going. What is right? I don't know. I'm not a finance guy. But I do know that no matter what you choose, when you start seeing that progress and you start to get that going, you start to make that momentum, that's where success lies, and health is no different in that. So if there is anything you need, obviously, drop a comment, but liking or subscribing this video is something that is very, very helpful to me. If this is something that you find useful, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, one or the other, and let me know because like I said, I've got a ton of different information. We can go a lot of different directions with this, but if I don't know what type of information is going to be useful for you, I'm going to pick something that's interesting to me. And if that doesn't help you out, that it doesn't do anybody any good. So if I have a better idea of what's going to help you out, I can share more, and that's ultimately where you benefit, right? So like, share, comment, whatever you need. As always, I love you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and attention, and I will catch you on the next video.